Hello everyone, my name is Michael from Polygon Island, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make this cool open world island type thing in Unreal Engine pretty quickly. So first, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm in like the Lyra starter project for Unreal Engine. This is just so I have a playable character and some mechanics for when I play this environment. This is completely doable and just a blank project if you want to do that, but it's the exact same way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to File, and then we're going to open a new level, and we can just open a basic level for now, and we can go up, we can go ahead and delete this default plane cube thing here, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to Edit, and we're going to go to Plugins. We're going to need to enable two plugins for this tutorial. The first is a landmass plugin, so if we just search up landmass, we can click check here. And the second is the water plugin. It's just called water. You don't have to enable water extras or anything. It's just water. Enable those. It should give you a prompt to restart the engine. Do that, and then bam, they're enabled. So once we have this, the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go up here to select mode, and we're going to go to landscape. And once this loads up, you can see that we now have a green grid. This is going to define where our landscape is going to go. And then under this section we have a few options. We can have create new or import from file. For this tutorial we're going to be using create new and all the tabs under it. Import from file is basically if you want to import height map data or an external height map into Unreal Engine. But we're going to go to create new for now. We're going to go ahead and enable edit layers, and then under material we can just leave this as none for now. Everything else should be the same. I'm going to change the sections to 2 by 2. This is just going to divide us up a little bit. And then we can create our terrain. So once this happens, you can see we now have our terrain. It's just a default untextured terrain. And so you could use these sculpting tools and just sculpt your island. That is very well doable. But I'm going to show off in this tutorial something that can come in pretty handy, and that is the landmass add-on. So if we go up here to this little blueprint brush under our brushes, under the blueprint brush tab, we can select our custom brush landmass. And so once we do that, we can go ahead and under edit layers, right click and just create a new layer, and we can just right click and rename this landmass or island or anything you want really. We're going to name it landmass for now, and I'm going to rename this one under it to just base. That'll be our base layer. Basically the pluses for working in layers is just like Photoshop. If you fuck up or do something on one layer that you weren't supposed to, you can just delete it, and it's fine. But for this, we're going to be on our landmass layer with our blueprint brush selected, and we're just going to click on our terrain, and you should see it adds in this little triangle. And this triangle adds has spline points, and this is how we're going to be controlling our landscape. So if we go back into select mode here, we can see that we can grab a hold of one of our points right here, and we can start dragging it once Unreal stops wigging out on me. We can grab it and we can start pulling it and doing different stuff like this. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make a basic big triangle type thing. And then we can just drag these out, doing something like this. And once we do that, what we can go ahead and do is we can go back into our landscape tab, and with in our landmass we can go ahead and select our entire landscape itself. And what we can go ahead and do is under our effects tab, we can go ahead and turn some of this stuff up. And I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I'm going to turn this up a little bit, and you can see we start getting these kind of effects on our thing, but it's not looking very good right now because we only have 3 points. So what we're going to go ahead and do is if we come out here and we go to one of these little spline lines right here, if we right click, we can add a spline point, and we can just kind of pull this out, and we can keep creating spline points, and then just kind of get something here to be a good shape, and we can just keep adding spline points until we get a decent shape. Whoops, not like that. but we can go ahead and just keep doing this. Keep adding spline points. Bring them out like this. And what we can go ahead and do is under fall off, we can go ahead and cap the shape. And that will give us this kind of flat island looking thing. And then we can just turn up the Z offset. We can just turn this up to something like 1000. Maybe something a little bigger. Maybe let's go with 2000. Something like that. And then once we have that, we have this basic island shape. This is a little bit too far over for what I would like. Maybe something like this. Just something like that, so we just have a basic island shape. And now we can go back into our effects tab, and we can just keep turning up these curls right here until we just have a cool looking shape. So something like that looks pretty good to me. Next thing we can do is we can go to our displacement. I'm going to turn the height to 1024 for now. And we can see that instantly adds a lot of variation in our ground. And what we can go ahead and do, if we want, we can turn the displacement tiling up a little bit. If you wanted some kind of like, if you wanted your ground a little bit bumpier. I'm going to keep this at, I'm going to keep this at 2 and 1024 as the height. I might bring this down to 1000. So we have something like that. And now on our smooth blending, I'm just going to change the outer smooth to something like 4, inner smooth to something like 3. That just adds a little bit of smoothing if your terrain starts kind of clipping through the ground or anything. But once we have that, what we can do is in our terracing, we can go ahead and add a terrace alpha of about 1, or that is way too high, maybe 0.1. Maybe 0.05. And that kind of adds some little hills. I might need to turn that down even lower, honestly. We can turn the terrace smoothness up. Let's go with 10 on the terrace smoothness. And just something like that, so we just kind of have this cool island looking thing right here going on. And once we have that, what we can go ahead and do is set up the texture, and the texture is actually going to come from a pre-made landscape material, and it's going to be located in a free asset pack. I'll leave the link into the description. But this is just a full project by Epic Games for like survival building. But what we're going to do is we're just going to basically import some of the assets from this pack into our project. So the way we're going to do that is once you've downloaded the project from the asset store and everything and imported it, you should have had a prompt to create a project, and that project will be found in your Unreal editor. It's made for Unreal Engine 4. It's not made for Unreal Engine 5, so when you double click it and try to open it, it'll come up with this dialog saying opening with this version of editor, may blah blah blah. Just click open a copy, and that will make a copy of the project, and it will open it in Unreal Engine. So you can see that it is opening it now. This is also a good time to go ahead and save this level in our original project. I'm going to call this Island. But while we're waiting for the next project to load, this will need to compile these shaders. This can take a little bit to a few minutes. So while I wait for this to load, I'm going to cut the video, and I'll be back whenever this loads. So once the project finally opens, you should be met with this demo scene. It's basically just showing off all the assets. We have two that we can choose from. The tutorial, you can do this either way. You have these more realistic but also stylized looking assets, and we have just these low poly assets. I'm going to go with these low poly assets for now. But we're not going to worry about these right yet. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go into our materials, and then our masters, and under polygonal, if you are doing the stylized, you can go with this. But if we just go with the polygonal, we can go ahead and right click this and go to asset actions and then migrate. And then we could just migrate all of these into another folder. So if we go into our UE5 projects and then we go into our Lyra starter game, and then we go into content, we should be able to just kind of drop all of this in here, and then that content migration should have happened successfully. And yeah, so if we go back into our original project, we should see that we have all of our stuff here. So and we should see that once we've imported this, I changed this to unlit, by the way, so that's why it's all dark and stuff. But we should see that we have our landscape material here now under the materials folder. If we go ahead and right click this and we just create a material instance and we name this mi underscore landscape, and we just use that as a material instance. This way we can use this. Ooh. Why is it all the way up on camera speed? But now we can use this material instance to apply to things without actually messing with the master material. So a few more things we're gonna go ahead and just import in is we're gonna go ahead and gonna dismiss all these. But we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing with these small rocks. Just some of these. Actually, we should be able to shift click these. Asset actions, migrate. Okay, and then just go over to wherever everything is and just select that folder. If this pops up, just click yes all. And then next, what we're going to do is under foliage, we're going to go ahead and grab these trees and we're going to right click. We're going to asset actions and then migrate and do the exact same thing for these trees. Select folder, yes all. We're also going to select all these plants, asset actions, migrate, okay. Select folder and yes to all. And so now that should be all we need from this project. If you want to grab anything else like a campfire or something, then we can go ahead and do that. It's the exact same way. Just find it wherever it is in the area. So it would, yeah, probably be something like right here. So we can go ahead and just right click this, and then asset actions, migrate, and then do the same thing with this as we did everything else. So that should be the only thing we need here. So once we have that, we can go ahead and just close out of this and we can go back into our original project, and we should see that we now have whatever we imported in right here. So that's all we need for this. I'm gonna go ahead and save all right here. I'm gonna change this back to lit just so we can kind of see what we're doing here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab our terrain and go into landscape mode once again. And under manage, or not manage, should be over here, yeah, over here on the right side. If we go to our landscape material and we go back into our building system and we just see what our material was called, mi landscape, yeah. So if we just look up mi underscore landscape and we select this. So if your material is black or gray once you apply the texture, that's completely normal. We basically just haven't told Unreal where to put the texture yet. So to fix that, just go up here to select mode and go to landscape, and then under paint mode, if we go to our layer slope, we can go ahead and click add and weight blended layer, and we can just call this slope underscore weight layer, or just something. And then once we do that, we should see that it now applies to itself. And basically what we can go ahead and do is anywhere on this, if we just click this and then click paint, if we just take our grass layer and apply a weight blend layer to it, I already have a weight layer for it created already, so it wouldn't let me do that. But if we just go ahead and do this, we should see it should start placing grass in just spots around our area. So we can just go ahead and put some grass down. We don't really have to go into the foliage editor for this. It's all in the shader. Just make sure the entire place is just covered with grass, really. Just kind of fly around, make sure it's gotten everywhere and stuff. But once we do that, what we can go ahead and do now is we can go ahead and add some water in. So the way we're going to do that is if we click this plus button up here and then we just type in water, and then we just go to water body ocean and then just drag this in and just kind of place it right here. We can see that we now have this, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this real quick, delete our water, or go into select mode, and delete our water real quick, because I'm going to go ahead and put this on another layer. So if I go back into my landscape mode, I can add a new layer. I'm going to create this and I'm going to rename it to water. So once I do that, I can go ahead and add our ocean back. So if I type in water, water body ocean, and just drag this here into our scene. And so now what we can do is we can go back into select mode and we can grab our water and we can just kind of bring it down some until it's a likable level. I would say something like that, maybe. You could go a little bit lower if you wanted to. Just something like that, and you can see that the water fades evenly into our terrain and everything. And it's looking pretty good. So now what we can go ahead and do is add some just hills and mountains. So if we go into our landscape again, we can go ahead and add a new layer, and we can rename it just hills. And what we can go ahead and do is under our sculpt mode, if we go to our blueprints and then select our landmass layer, we should be able to click on this and just add a hill to this. So what we can go ahead and do here, if Unreal would work with me, is what we can go ahead and do is we can just kind of pull these out, and what we can do is just adjust some of the settings over here. So if we go into effects and we adjust the curl over here, and we just kind of move some of these around over here. Might want to add some displacement. Kind of like that. And if you notice that it is in the ground over here and you don't really like that, what we can do is we can go back into select, or select, and we can grab this landscape. We can grab this landscape and we can just bring it up until it is no longer doing that. And so once we have that, what we can do is we can go ahead and start adding some more spline points and just kind of bring this out some more. Maybe bring this over here. And now we have this cool kind of hill right here going on. Now if we go back into our landscape tab and we just hit duplicate on this, we can duplicate this and we can move it somewhere over here. So maybe I want a little bit of a bigger hill going on right there. And I can just kind of bring this up a little bit to where it's kind of something like this. Might bring it over here more to the edge of the island. Bring this in some. Bring this in some. Bring this in. Just so it's not like completely going over the island here. We can kind of do something like this. If you wanted to, you could add another spline point, adjust it a little bit more, something like that. And then we could add just smaller little hills. We can duplicate this again. We can move it over here. If we wanted to, we could cap the shape of it, and then change the angle of fall off right here, depending on how you want it. And then we can get some kind of cool hill going on right here. We can bring it down. We can bring it down if we want. So now that way we have this hill right here. We can duplicate it, bring this over here, have this hill over here. You can keep increasing the curls, not that much. You can keep increasing the curls if you want to. Maybe something like this. Now we might want to move this, bring this down some. So we just have a little area like this. We can go ahead and we can actually add a new landmass over here. And what we can go ahead and do is we can change this curl strength. We can change this curl strength, and we can also mess with the curl tiling. So if we do something like this, we get something that's a little bit more interesting, and we can just kind of adjust this until we get something that we like. Then we can bring it up to something like that. We can just kind of place these around in places. We can Control C, Control V instead of duplicating. And just kind of bring these around in different places, so that way we just kind of have a more interesting kind of thing going on right here, to where our area isn't completely plain. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring this down some, just because it is a little bit high. I'm going to change the fall off angle a little bit, just so it's a little bit more even. I'm going to come over here to whichever landmass this one is. This one, I guess. And then I'm going to change the fall off angle of this as well. I'm going to bring it up a little bit though. Actually might move it over here. And so yeah, now we have this cool little playable area. We could take this one too if we wanted to, and kind of move it over here, just so we don't have too much of the same going on. And now once we have that, we can go ahead and start adding our trees. So trees and painting foliage, it's pretty easy. It's just kind of, you have to know where to place it, and that's pretty much up to you. So what I'm going to do, if Unreal wasn't running at 3 FPS, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our content, easy building system. I'm going to go into meshes, environment, polygonal, and foliage. So now if we go into our foliage tab by going into select mode, if we just grab these trees and kind of drop them into our foliage tab, we can see that now our trees are in here. So Unreal Engine might have to load and prepare the shaders real quick. Just wait for that to finish up. You want to go ahead and save. It's always a good idea to save whenever Unreal Engine is pretty much doing anything. But once these shaders load, we should see that we now have our trees up here. We can adjust our brush size to something like 1024, and we can just test, and right now we can see that that is way too dense of a population of trees. So we can turn our paint density down to maybe something like 0.1. That is still way too high. 0.02 maybe. Nah, still way too high. 0.005. Yeah, 0.005 is looking pretty good. And so what we can do now is we can just start placing our trees. I'm going to change my brush size to 2048. And I'm just going to start kind of placing trees in places. So I'm going to place some up through here on the hills, kind of like this, just at the top of these hills, kind of coming down. And we can just place these trees around in different places, kind of spread them out, but make them make sense basically. Trees, they can grow pretty much anywhere, at any angle. You just don't want them clipping through stuff. If you need to, you can change the density down even more, and just kind of put some trees around in different areas. Maybe kind of sparser through the middle here in these areas, because they're a little bit more open. You don't want a bunch of trees in your open areas really. You just want enough to where it doesn't look empty. You can start kind of just spreading these out, and then we can start getting back to putting down a little bit more, bringing this up to 0.005 again, and just kind of placing these on top, and we can add a bunch of trees around the edges and stuff of the island, just kind of going through here. We can adjust our brush size to maybe something like 512 to kind of put a few trees up here in a few places. So just something like that. We can put a few back here, change our brush size back to 1024, put a few back here. 512 might need to stay. We can just add a few back here, and do some stuff like this, and just basically just lay out your island. Do it however you want here, with your trees. Kind of put some closer to the edge, and just keep them sparingly where you want the player to be walking, because you don't want the player to be walking through just a bunch of trees for no real reason. We can put up quite a bit back here, maybe some right here. 0.001, kind of put some through here, and just keep set dressing this, basically. We can kind of put some more up through here, maybe some through here, and just kind of do something like this. And we can kind of start placing some more over through here, kind of have a little bit more wooded parts near the edges. And kind of leave the center free. Just something like this. Now that I'd say that's looking pretty good. We have a pretty good environment looking for us right now. And so what we can go ahead and do now is, if we go, we can add some of these flowers by just bringing them into our foliage type right here, and just adding those in. The shaders will need to compile. What we can do is we can just shift click on all of these. Whoops. Shift click on all of our I don't want to click the save icon. Shift click on all of our foliage and then just disconnect it, and these two should be the only things active. And so now if we go in here and we start placing some stuff, we should be able to see some flowers being placed down. So we can just do this all over our scene basically, and just kind of add a bunch of flowers to your scene. I undid something, so Unreal is lagging. Just add a bunch of flowers to your scene and all that, and you should be able to see that it starts filling out your scene pretty nicely. You don't want an overgrowth of flowers, but you want quite a few just to kind of add some variety in your scene. You also don't have to worry about Unreal just placing a bunch of foliage in a bunch of places where it's overlapping. You shouldn't have to worry about that. But yeah, just place it wherever there's grass. You don't really want to place any flowers or anything on any rocky areas really, but just where there's kind of grass. You can kind of leave the outside because the player won't really be seeing the outside that much. But just kind of throughout the area where there's grass, just kind of place some flowers down, kind of paint them on. And once you see that you have a good amount of flowers, you should be good to move on to the next step. So the next step, it should be foliage. Maybe not foliage. Organic. Yeah, so next we're going to add our rocks. So if we just shift click all of these and drag them in once we disabled our flowers. Same process, it'll have to compile the shaders and all that. But once it does that, we should be good to go. We can go ahead and do a test paint right here, and we can see that is way too much, the density. So we can turn that density back down to maybe something like 0.05 at first. See how that is. And that's a good amount of rocks for 0.05. I'm going to add those in just a few areas though. I'm not going to add a whole bunch of rocks in a whole bunch of areas, but just a few around these main areas in that big clump. And then I'm going to reduce the size kind of, and just work with that. So if we just keep kind of painting down right here, and then we reduce the paint density to something like 0.002, and then we can go down to a kind of blank area and see how that works. We can actually change this up to 0.02 maybe. Yeah, 0.02. And then we can just add some more rocks and stuff around. And yeah, I would say that is pretty good. We can keep adding some rocks and stuff just around our scene, just to make it a little bit more interesting. You can also take some of the bigger rocks from the building asset pack and kind of put them together and make your own thing. If you wanted to, you could put more rocks around the kind of beachy areas. But I'm just going to kind of place these around just so it's a little bit more interesting around everything, really. And I'm going to go back to our flowers, and I'm going to add some of our flowers. I'm going to disable the rocks real quick. I'm going to add some of our flowers to right here because it was looking a little bit bare. But once you have that, that is pretty much it for the island. You have your full island here. Everything's looking pretty good. But yeah, once you have that, that's pretty much it. If you wanted to, over here by the beaches, you could go to your landscape tab, and then under paint, if we go to our landmass and then we go to dirt, what we can do is if we just add a weight blended layer and then just call it dirt layer info, what we can do is we can now we can just change our brush size to maybe like 1024, And what we can do is we can just go ahead and start kind of brushing on this kind of sandy type stuff over here on the beach areas of everything. I apologize that my frame rate is tanking. I'm going to change this to unlit real quick, just so it's a little bit easier to see. But yeah, if we see any of these beachy areas, we can just kind of go ahead and start painting this thing on there. I'm going to change this to 512. We can just kind of start painting a dirt layer on there. I'm not trying to make this perfect or anything, but we can just start painting on here. And just paint around the entire island basically. Just want to make sure we have kind of a little shoreline right here. Just something like this. Just go around the rest of the island, make sure there's not really anywhere where it's like that. I'm going to go ahead and save all right here. And then I'm going to change this back to lit. And so now we should be able to see if we fly around in some different areas, we should be able to see that beach texture kind of thing going on right there. That just makes it a little bit cooler. You could always add some dirt patches around here anywhere or do anything like that. But that's pretty much it for this tutorial. If you guys liked it, if you guys enjoyed it, if you guys learned something, make sure to hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Michael from Polygon Island, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.